Good evening and welcome to tonight's Hearthstone Half Hour. I'm Hammy, this is Falcroftcast. Welcome, hope you're very well this Wednesday evening. Tonight we're going to be returning to the ladder. I'm sorry for the problems last night. As with any online game, occasionally they need to do a few things to the login server, so we were struggling a bit on our Arena Tuesday, hence why the episode has not been uploaded. Tonight we are going to be laddering, but we're not just going to be laddering. We are going to be playing 3 games. You've seen us play Control Warrior before. We got to the dizzying heights of about rank 7 last week, and then we went on a little bit of a tilt. We went crashing back down, and so this is where you find us in rank 11 at this point in time. What we're going to be doing is playing through some games, explaining as always what we try and do as we play through, but we're going to be really focusing on a couple of concepts in terms of things that you probably want to try and avoid when you are laddering, or when you're playing a game such as Hearthstone for a period of time. As we go second here, I will get myself a coin. I'm playing a mage. I'm going to be expecting, given the mage decks I've seen, something with a bunch of small annoying minions at the beginning. There'll be mana worms, there'll probably be the golems, whose names I temporarily forget. Either way, I want some crowd control early on. I then want a nice accelerate into my mid game, so I want to keep his early minions under control and then be able to accelerate into the mid game with my chunky minions. I'm quite happy. 2 cleaves, I could have chucked one of these back. We'll soon see the wisdom of that. With a Gore Howl I can't play anything, and it's going to be my opponent's go. So while we wait for our opponent to make a play, I'm expecting him to try and pressure me with small minions in the early game. And I have plenty of control options, which is nice. Hold on, up. There is a bit of a danger. What can cause you problems when laddering? Well, I'm going to talk about a couple of concepts today. One of them is called tilt. You may have heard that in terms of poker. We'll give it a real high-level sort of summary. And then another one is really in terms of just making sure that you give yourself adequate breaks. And occasionally take some time to stop and reflect as to why things might not be going entirely the way you want. At this stage I'm just armouring up and waiting for our mage friend here to make a play. If he doesn't play loads of small minions and he drops tanks, I'm going to suspect that he's going to be nuking. He's going to be throwing Pyroblasts, Fireballs, maybe an Archmage, and to deny us, and there we see a Fireball drop in. I'm suspicious of a nuky, bursty type deck. How do I react to that? Well, he's just melted away all my armour. I need to get myself on the offensive and starting to put some pressure on his hero. For what he will want to do is keep me under control and then nuke me down with some big spells in the late game. While we're waiting for our mage friend to play, the concept of tilt. Tilt in poker is effectively a stage where you get pretty frustrated, maybe hands aren't going your way, maybe you're not playing very well, and you get frustrated, and long story short, because you get frustrated, you start playing more aggressively. And when you start playing more aggressively, you suddenly find that because you're playing more aggressively, you're losing more, so on and so forth. So it's effectively when you're aggressive and when you're angry, you're going to start making worse and more poor decisions, and then when that happens, you're going to start losing more, which will then feed into you making worse and more poor decisions. So it's all a little bit tough in those regards. Interestingly, I've just seen a little bit funny going on in terms of my authentication and broadcast to the stream. While we sort out exactly what is going on there, I've just got frozen. I've had a Yeti dropped on me. So there are some pretty chunky minions getting dropped here. He's done some straight damage. I'm not going to be attacking with my axe, but then again I don't have a weapon on me right now anyway. So I'd probably like to get rid of this Yeti. That's going to be dangerous to me in the midterm. What options do I have? I could move straight into a Gore Howl and really cement things, but because I'm playing a nuky star mage, what I don't want to be doing is getting my health too low. Because of that, I'm going to look for solutions as to how I can remove him in other ways. Sadly, I can't shield slam him. I do have an execute available, which is nice, and I do have various ways of tapping him for a couple of damage. First things first, I'm going to drop the Berserker because that will give me a little bit of additional pressure. I'm going to armour up because I want to keep my armour nice and high. I would prefer to keep my Armorsmith alive because that will keep feeding these 2 cards, and then I can finally swing him with the execute to finish him off. So I'm fully expecting some more crowd control from our mage friend here. There we go, Twitch all lovely and sorted. So given that, I managed to stick a bit of pressure on, Frostbolt straight up, and there'll be a finish off there for another 2 mana as well. I know, Elven Archer will do removal very, very nicely. So while our mage friend finishes playing, the dangerous water elemental dropped. Thankfully I've got a solution for that, which will be good. I've got, let's just see, can I would like to get Cairn, in fact I can get Cairn out this go. That'll give me a nice pressure situation. So what I can do is drop Cairn and then mana into a Shield Slam.
What now?
Let's just think this through. Cairn will give me the pressure. The alternative I can go for is a real hard control play, and that will be armouring up, Shield Slamming away that water elemental because it is rather dangerous, or a cleave into a Shield Slam. There's a couple of different plays we can go for here. What I basically want to do is get that water elemental off the deck because it's dangerous. I'd like to keep my Armorsmith alive if possible. If I have to delay playing Cairn Bloodtooth, Cairn will really give me some additional pressure and maybe force a taunt out of the mage. That play is possible, but it would mean sacrificing my Armorsmith. Let's go for the slightly more aggressive of the two plays, which will involve me dropping a Shield Slam straight up, and then sadly it will involve me sacrificing the Armorsmith. He's not quite dead, but he will probably get picked off next go. The alternative was dropping a cleave into a Shield Slam, and then I would have had an armour up and a little bit more mana left over. So while we are waiting for our opponent here to play, let's talk about finishing off with Tilt. So Tilt is something that you will experience. You might not have known it as Tilt, but really it is that stage in gameplay where you get very, very frustrated with yourself. Maybe things aren't just going your way. This is a card game. You will have the bad luck of the draw sometimes. And the really important thing in that situation is simply not do what I did the other week. I thought, you know what, if I just keep playing, it's all going to work out. It's all going to be absolutely fine. It was not absolutely fine. I really, really struggled. And as a result, lost a whole bunch of ranking. So first things first, to avoid tilting, just give yourself a break. Step away from the game for a while. Go and do a few other things. Drop a golden cleave. And there we go. We've baited out the counterspell. But I can then throw into another cleave. And luckily I managed to actually even pick off those minions. So that's a nice, fortunate bit of play there. I've got an oh so evil play here. I could Faceless Manipulate to something else, but to really frustrate my opponent, I'm going to start slamming away with two Cairn Bloodhoofs. Now I could have dropped that Faceless Manipulator on a Ragnaros or something else, but these are really going to give him some headaches. They will chew and chew and chew away at him. And there's the Mana Worm. I'm expecting some freeze or controlling spells. Cone of Cold. Very nicely played. He will hold me up, and there's another Mage Secret down there. Slamming in for the one. I'm in a very nice position here to really push forward and do some damage. I'm actually going to go straight into Ragnaros now. And although that may pick off a minion rather than our hero, it actually takes the more dangerous of the two minions, so lucky for me there. But the only reason I'm dropping this Ragnaros at this point in time is because I can see that my enemy here is very low on cards. He does have the polymorph, I baited that out. Shame that it went on Ragnaros. However, I do have a lot of room to put some pressure on now. And a straight up resignation from our opponent here. I think he could have probably played that out a bit more, but I'll take the win. I did have a good table advantage there, but not such one that was overcomeable. He could have drawn a couple more cards and actually seen what was coming through. So we've quickly reviewed the principle of tilt and why, if at all possible, if you see yourself getting into that kind of pattern, if you see yourself maybe in a bit of a losing streak, if you're getting frustrated, and the real things to look for are just if you're getting a bit annoyed. It happens to us all when we're playing games. And also, if you find yourself generally playing a little bit more aggressively than usual, you find yourself going for attacks, going for people, when maybe you should be waiting and assessing your options. Second game up here, I've got a Rogue. I'm hoping against hope this is not Miracle Rogue, but it's probably going to be Miracle Rogue. Miracle Rogue, for those of you not familiar, is effectively a combo deck whereupon you need to get a Gadget Zan Auctioneer and conceal out by about turn 5. And if you do that, you then play a whole bunch of Rogue cards that are low in mana cost. That triggers the Gadget Zan Auctioneer to help you draw a whole bunch of cards, and then you take out a big finishing combo, something like a Leroy Jenkins or similar. So what I need to be able to do, if this is a Miracle Rogue, is put a lot of pressure on him early, or get a lot of defense out so that it's going to be hard for him to get off his combo and effectively assassinate me. Indications that this is Miracle Rogue: he may not play huge amounts of cards in the mid to early game. He may be saving stuff up or look as though he's being very passive. He's gone straight in with an Eviscerate to just get my armour card off the table there in my Armour Smith. So very, very aggressive by our friend though. Now I can't shield block into this at the moment, but I would like to remove that Leper Gnome on my terms. As a result, this is quite an aggressive play. I'm going to save that Shield Slam, because what I want to do is actually be able to pick off any gadgets and auction as it comes in. With nothing on the table, you'll see aggressive cards like the Leper Gnome occasionally. You do see a tempo control rogue, but he would not be playing such aggressive early game cards, I think, if he was going for tempo and control. What he is doing is trying to get as much damage on me as possible, so that if his Miracle Magic combo goes off, my health will be as low as possible for him to come and swing through for the win. Right, in terms of removal, I can save the Shield Slam and Shield Block to remove a card. If I put that armour on now, it's worth knowing, and he picks away at it, then of course I'm losing the ability to do a higher damage Shield Slam. So what I'm actually going to do is the rather unusual 1 damage with the Cruel Taskmaster, although it is useful for a little bit of picking off. In my hand there's nothing else I'm going to be playing. It was either the Shield Block or Armouring Up. So I'm going to Armour Up. Equally valid, I could have just Armoured Up to take that 2 damage on the armour rather than on the health. But now I'm slightly encouraged to see that my rogue friend here is playing some of his free cards like Backstab and similar early. The more free mana cost cards he plays at this stage, the less he'll have to play when he drops his gadgets and auctioneer. And that's really what I'm looking for at this point. I'm expecting that's going to show up. Now feels like the good time to shield block. Lovely, lovely draw. I get my Furry War Axe with my armour. That means I can pick off our SI7 agent, and if I'm not ahead, I certainly have got parity in terms of our play right now. But this is turn 5, and turn 5 is where I've got to be looking for the Gadgets and Auctioneer. I've not seen anything else really. I've seen some very standard rogue minions and standard aggressive minions at this point in time. The fact that he's attacked, dropped his weapon, and tapped on the table to let me play. I'm smelling Miracle Rogue. What I need to do is get pressure on. Faceless Manipulator, it's not really a play for me at this point in time. Armouring up more to make sure that I'm in a position to be able to assassinate that Gadgets and Auctioneer when it comes into play. I could swing an attack with my warrior here, however that if I take damage on my armour, I'm not going to be able to do a huge shield slam. I need 4 health or 4 damage on me to be able to remove that Gadgets and Auctioneer. So this is where I tap on the table. I think I know what is coming. So a Loot Hoarder is going to let him draw. There is 4 mana left, but it doesn't look as though he still has that Gadgets and Auctioneer. And for that reason he is slowing down. Now if I can get some big attacking cards out on the table, this is where I could take tempo and start taking the fight to our opponent. I do have a decision to make as to whether I even want to kill this Loot Hoarder, because that will accelerate him by helping him draw cards. But I need some attacking options to be able to make that choice. The Acolyte of Pain will help me with some more card draw. If he decides to suicide himself on me, he will draw the card next turn anyway. If he's struggling for cards, that will be his likely play. I don't want to use my weapon for previously discussed reasons. I could drop in a shield slam as an aggressive play, or I could just tap on the table and see what's going to happen. I'd like to keep my armour up if at all possible. I'm going to be proactive in this case just to prevent any damage to my hero, but that has of course given him that additional draw. So if the Gadgets and Auctioneer goes down on this turn, he could have done that anyway if he wanted to. He could have just suicided that Loot Hoarder against my Acolyte of Pain. He would have given me card draw as well though in that situation. He probably wouldn't have attacked directly my hero, because in that case, another Loot Hoarder. He's really looking for his card draw. He still does not have that Gadgets and Auctioneer on the table. This is where I need to take advantage, and my next drop, if at all possible, will be Ragnaros, to really make him start thinking. There goes Eviscerates. The combo will just remove my Acolyte from the table, so it will force me to spend another turn doing something. And there goes a direct swing. So our rogue at this point in time is struggling, but I need to take advantage, otherwise we're going to have some real problems. Now our rogue friend here will certainly have some options in the form of returning cards to hands and similar. Gromash will let me remove this Loot Hoarder. That will set up a Ragnaros next turn to do some heavy damage. Other options, a Cruel Taskmaster, and saving him with Grommash would be quite handy. What I'm actually going to go for is just a Ragnaros. He can suicide his loot hoarder anyway, so I'm going to be proactive and take it out, and then drop 8 damage on him. But I'm hoping against hope that he is still not pulling his Gadgetzan Auctioneer. When that Gadgetzan Auctioneer hits the table, it may sound as though I'm being quite paranoid about this, but that's where this deck will make or break. If I can pressure him the next couple of goes, I should have a good win condition on the table. I've got Grommash, which I can charge in for 12 damage on turn 10, because he will be enraged up to 10 damage. The Cruel Taskmaster doing the damage gives him 12. I can Faceless Manipulate my Ragnaros next go. The Azure Drake going down means he does not have that Gadgetzan Auctioneer still, so I need to push my advantage here. Should be happy about this position so far, but it's not over till it's over. What I need to do is make sure I push down there you go, Backstab, and he is now playing those 0 mana cards that he would normally save for playing with a Gadgetzan Auctioneer. That makes me confident that he's really lacking cards, and next turn he's going to be able to pick off my Ragnaros, of course. So what I need to do is push on and make sure that I can capitalise. Alexstrasza would be a tempting play, but if I can control this side of the table, I would like to. So with that in mind, let's look at my control options. With 9 mana, I can armour up and do a little shield slam. The cleave will let me remove one of those, not both of those, sadly. I could Cruel Taskmaster even to do the one to remove, but I want to keep my execute play going. So if I can get another guaranteed 8 damage with my Ragnaros, I can swing in with Grommash the turn afterwards, and I'll be very, very close to a win condition. Given that, I think I'm actually going to go for the aggressive control play. So we'll go into a cleave, we will armour up. I know I'm losing this shield slam now for the Gadgetzan Auctioneer, but this is where I kind of need to push my advantage home. Ooh, I do have one other play that I could drop here, and that's Faceless Manipulating my Ragnaros. That gives me then 2 Ragnaroses that might die. If I Faceless Manipulate a Grommash, it would probably put me in a stronger position. Let's remove that one card, the Cruel Taskmaster. Okay, I'm going to just really aggressively remove the table. That lets me put another 8 damage on. And our rogue is now in some trouble. I don't get that 12 attack play with Grommash now, so I've sacrificed that. But what I may actually have, Argent Commander, okay, straight up trade, he will remove Grommash from the table. Perdition's Blade gives the 2 execute damage, so that will remove my Cruel Taskmaster. He's now in table clearance mode. He's actually going to attack for 2 with his Perdition's Blade as well. He still could potentially get his execute combo out. He's been quite unlucky with his draw, but I'm going to push on in, I think, for the win, hopefully. Dropping a Grommash and attacking for 4 is not ideal. He could of course remove this next go and I'm in trouble. I still have Alexstrasza, but by this stage I've gone past the 15. I could heal myself down. Argent Squire, interesting. Harvest Golem, these are the early game aggressive cards I was expecting. And a Defender of Argus, maybe he's actually trying to play a tempo deck after all. But his cards have just not been coming out to the mid to late game. Interesting. What he has set up though is a lovely little charge condition I can take here, in terms of he's going to do Cold Bloods. Okay. It makes it more of a threat for me to get through the tank, so a nice solid play there. What can I do here? Well, I've got one interesting play. Alexstrasza will let me get some more heavy hitters on the table. Argent Squire means I will take a bunch of damage. Faceless Manipulator will manipulate me another Grommash. So first up I'm going to see if I can get that bubble off with Cleave. And very fortunately I managed to do so. This gives me an option to clear the table. He will be able to potentially clear 2 Grommashes off the table though. I do need to bear that in mind. But an aggressive play here, given that he's got nothing in his hand, will let me pick some options. And with an armour up there, he can pick off my Grommashes, but he will lose. So with that 1 card left, he can take 1 Grommash. He knows I will win with the other. So it really depends on what he has in his hand. It may be that we just got our win condition straight off the bat there. While we wait for our opponent to... Yep, is he going to take it? He's going to take it. Wait for our opponent to finish up, and happily for this we've had a couple of wins in a row. He's going to go for the suicide. No? Good game. So we will tempt fate, sitting on 11. The next win gives us our win streak bonus and also take us to rank 10, so we'll play one final game to bring it up to the half hour, and we can also discuss our second topic outside of Tilt, which is some ideas as to what to do when you get stuck in a ladder rut. If you find yourself in that sort of, you're winning a few, losing a few, you may be sitting on one particular rank like I have been for a little bit, and you're not quite sure how to move yourself forward. What I've done is I generally tend to jump out, I tend to go and have a look at the metagame, and I just get a little notepad. I've got a notepad sitting by me here, and interestingly a paladin, maybe an aggressive paladin deck. That's 3 nice interesting mixes of play that we've seen here. So regardless, Baron Geddon is a bit late. I would maybe like Baron Geddon if I had 4 cards, because he will provide token clearance. His 2 damage to all characters will sweep away all of the Argent Squires that are being summoned. Kayn is just too late game. I could keep an Acolyte. I want to have early game clearance. I'm going to risk a full mulligan. If I was going to keep 1 card, it would have been the Acolyte of Pain for the draw power. And at 2, 8, 5, at least I get the Fury War Axe, but that's not an ideal hand in terms of those late game cards. Brawl could be useful. Now the reason Brawl could be useful is if our Paladin decides to swarm, which is perfectly possible. Aggressive turn 1 play, a coining into a Fairy Dragon. He wants to pressure from the off. I'm not going to give him that privilege. I'm not going to be able to draw. I can't. Of course, with Slam, I can't target him. Silly me. Although I take the 3 damage here, I'm just going to make sure that I really control him in the early game. So, ideas as to if you're stuck in a ladder rut, how do you get yourself out of it? How do you move on? Try and get yourself moving up the ladder again. I generally take a notepad and just note down, so if I play 5 games or 10 games, I'll note down what I've been playing and what the kinds of decks are, and just have a little look at the metagame. Metagame wise, just what's going on, what kind of cards are being dropped, what kind of stuff that people are playing with, and similar. That way I get an idea of what I'm up against, and maybe a little bit of a win-loss tally as well. So I've got a tally here of me playing the Ramp Druid that you saw in this Monday's New Player Monday episode. After that, I then take a look at decks and think, you know what, do the whole know your enemy thing. So in some of our episodes of Hearthstone Half Hour, we have been taking a look at decks we've seen on the ladder, and how they work, and maybe sort of different ways that we can imitate them, learn how they work, and try and sort of learn a bit about them. So that's my next step. What I generally tend to do in that situation is jump on in and pick a deck I've been playing against and struggling against, and then just try and build the best version of it I can, maybe deck list it, play as it, and then that way I get an idea of what I'm up against and some maybe good ideas as to how to get around it, which is always fun as well. So that's one idea. The other idea is after you've played that deck, maybe that will give you a reason to sort of try something a little bit different. If you don't feel in that position, then just go and do something fun. As silly as it sounds, go and do something else for a bit. Play some Arena. I've got a ridiculous Legend Shaman deck that is just a load of legendary silly cards. You just try and swarm with legends and have fun and play Elite Tauren Chieftain and do all sorts of ridiculousness. Fill your opponent's hand with Murlocs. Fill your opponent's side of the board with Murlocs as well. But yeah, just go play a fun deck. Go play a different hero. Jump into casual mode. Take the pressure off and just absolutely relax. Then come back to your deck, and you may find that your play has actually improved just because you've taken that break. You're not at risk of tilting and similar. So a couple of different ideas there for if you're stuck in that ladder rut, a few different ways to break out of it and just have some fun. The other way you could is maybe with Heroes of the Storm, whenever the open beta comes open to us. In the meantime, we'll jump back to our game, and really you've seen me aggressively trying to control this Paladin. But he's still dropping one of his token minions, and you've seen the Paladin very aggressively playing to try and control me. He's taken out an Armor Smith, and he's taken out one of my Acolytes of Pain very, very, very aggressively. So I want to keep him under control. The Shield Slams I prefer to save for something a little bit more ugly, the Brawl equally so. Given I've got a reasonable amount of armour, I'm actually just going to jump ahead and jump in with Gorehowl. Now Gorehowl is a fantastic card for Warrior. Losing an attack a go instead of durability, providing you don't get countered, and a lot of people are running Harrison Jones and the good old acidic Swampoos in a control warrior deck such as this. It just lets you swing away and pick off minions using your health and armour as a resource and really put some pressure on. So our Paladin friend is trying to control. He'll probably try and buff these cards. Defender of Argus and all of these token minions very much gives me that strong suggestion. Now I've got a play or two here where I can try and get the deck under control, or I can drop an immediate threat. Paladins, of course, do have a quality. They could reduce all health to 1, so that could be a bit of a danger. I do have Shield Slam. As much as I'd like to save those for bigger minions, there might be just one good turn here where I can do a very sort of strong play. So I'm going to go for the cleave. I hopefully get that bubble off, but it is of course a risk. No bubble for me. Sad times. I don't really want the tank in the way, so I can armour up here. I can do a triple play. It's risky dropping 2 Shield Slams because they could come in easy later, but what I want to do is clear the table if at all possible. Welcome. We have some journeys in the stream, so I will try not to tap away too much. I'm actually going to... oh, I removed the bubble. Okay, fair enough. Now I could go for an aggressive additional Shield Slam. I'm going to go for the aggressive. It's very aggressive because maybe that Shield Slam will come in useful later in the game. Of course, I still have a Brawl, and I still have 2 Executes hanging around as well for those bigger minions, and Whirlwinds, and possibly a Slam as well. So, in this situation, we've been seeing me trying to aggressively control my opponent. My opponent's been trying to aggressively control me. I've not really seen the goal of his deck thus far, apart from summoning a lot of token minions and throwing around some Divine Shields. But I'm guessing that he's got the same kind of things you'll normally see in an aggro pally deck, maybe some bigger minions, probably Blessings of Might and similar things to really buff up those small minions in a hurry. What I need to do now at this point, which is we're now pretty much late game in terms of 8 mana, is get out my finishing cards and start putting some pressure on. I'm a Wrath, 3 damage and draw a card. My opponent is fishing for something. Is he going to find it? Now, I've got 2 plays here that are immediately more aggressive that will put pressure on him. Is actually dropping Alexstrasza, and the reason for that is setting his health to 15. Ragnaros might hit this. I could do a guaranteed 8 and he might remove it next go, or I can do the guaranteed damage with Alexstrasza to set up Ragnaros. I'm going to go for the guaranteed Alexstrasza damage to set up Ragnaros and remove that token minion with my hero again. I'm only taking 1 damage. I can keep removing these all day. Okie dokie, welcome to the chat, and we have seen, you'll see this in aggro pally decks, but it's also just a generally nice combination. The Argent Protectors being thrown in, 2 of those, you can be bubbling all kinds of crazy threats, and the Guardian of Kings has been made that threat as well as with the heal. So what can we do here? I'm obviously not brawling. Raggy is the tempting drop, but what I would kind of like to do, if at all possible, is clear the table. Now that is going to be difficult. I can take some more damage upon myself. What I'll probably do is shield up, take some damage by swinging with my axe. I would quite like to remove this if possible, but if I take less damage on... Ooh, okay, we can stay alive. I probably, I'm not going to be able to remove this in one go. I can certainly drop the shield down. The Armor Smith is okay, right. He's going to want to damage my minions, so I'm going to go with Armor Smith rather than the armor up. I can drop Raggy. I'm going to take the damage on my hero, a bit controversial. I'm going to drop Raggy, and I'm actually just going to try and keep Alexstrasza alive. That will armour me up for 1. Now I might get lucky. Click, 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 kill, kill, kill. It's a my bad on that one, because I always have this superstition that if I click and sort of focus on a minion, then Ragnaros is going to attack that minion. Really, it's just totally random. Right, a Big Game Hunter, lovely play, removes my threat. A solid counter card. This card will allow him, he'll have a way of doing 1 more damage. He'll remove Alexstrasza as the Consecration. So our pally cards are finally coming out the dock. I've managed to get his health down, but not by huge amounts, and he's done a very good job in countering me there. Holy Light, he's healed himself up. He may have a Tyrian Ford Ring or something similar, so this game is by no means sealed. Our Paladin has come straight back into the reckoning. Now I don't want to brawl. I could execute, but that's going to be a little risky. I don't particularly want to take huge amounts of damage. I may as well, because I've got the shield, use it up. And I've now got 2 left in terms of that. there's not actually any other huge plays. So you can see, because I've lost my Acolytes of Pain and I was being very, very hard controlled by my opponent, I'm now slowly running out of options while his hand is filling up. And there goes his own Ragnaros. Now, happily, I've still got those executes back. Another Holy Light. He's just healing and healing and healing. Hopefully he gets my... Oh, he's got lucky and now I'm on the back foot. But happily I do have a solution. A solution to the problem. And that is just a very simple whirlwind execute. Really, really, really solid. Nice option. So I need to armour up. That 2 is not going to do huge amounts for me. Do you know what? I'm just going to apply a little bit of pressure and then drop down my axe again. So although my health is down, I've Alex Strazed even, and he's managed to heal himself back up. It all depends on what finishes and big minions he has in his hand. If he pulls out a Tyrion Ford Ring at this stage, I could be in a lot of trouble. So previously, from being a strong early game position, we are struggling a bit in this late game. 11 cards left for him, 13 for me. Down goes the Harvest Golem, comboing away, and True Silver Champion, fantastic Paladin card, just letting him heal up and do some very nice damage as well. And the best thing about it is basic. Basic. Not the golden one, of course, that's not basic. He's now going to try and swarm me. I got to make a careful play here. I can. If I cleave, that will nigh on. I can remove 1 just by swinging with my. I believe this is the correct play. So I soak that up. I'm going to be low. He could have me in execute health here, so there is a wee bit of risk. But now I trigger that golem. I can drop 1 on him. I'm going to go all out. Now, this could be a bad play. Very, very possibly. This is an absolute risk and I would not recommend it. Reason for that is because I'm now on 10 health. Baron Geddon damages me for 2 each turn. He has got 4 there. So if he can do 6 damage this go, it puts me in execute range. And the Order Peacekeeper there and the Taz Dingo mean that unless I can't actually even sacrifice myself very easily, and he's got a lot of barriers in my way, he's just going to string straight in for my hero now and do another 4 damage. Now, I do have shield blocks. I do know that in my last 11 cards I do have some shield blocks. However, there could be a bit of a struggle. So, play-wise, the first thing I need to do, of course, is armour up. I don't really want to take any damage on my hero if possible. He's run out of cards again. I'm going to go for the risky cleave. The risky cleave does not pay dividends, which is a massive shame. But what I can actually do is clear the table. And I need to clear the table. Execute is going to go down on his second, another risk, and then Baron Geddon's final power clears the table once more. I'm now on 6, so I'm at a lot of risk of a charge. Avenging Wrath, oh, that will finish things off. Oh, you got so lucky with that, top decking that, but I was in execute range, so I put myself at risk there. 2 wins, 1 loss, and that is the tail of the ladder. Up 2, down 1. If I just managed to pull that one through, what could I have done better in that game is an interesting reflection. I think that in the mid game there were probably a couple of plays when I look back I maybe was a little bit hyper aggressive in terms of some of my plays. If I concentrated more on clearing the table rather than going for damage on his hero, I did manage to deal with the Ragnaros. I got lucky that he got that Avenging Wrath, but I did make some decisions to drop my health into sort of a very critical area. So it was well played. He managed to hang on in through a period of difficulty and seal out for the victory. So that is it for tonight's actual casted bit of the Hearthstone half hour. We will, as always, continue in a non-casted bit, having a bit of a chat in the stream after the episode live on Twitch. Really thank you for tuning in, whether you see this on YouTube, on the website, or wherever. And as our usual sign off, where can you find us? On youtube.com/FelcroftCasts. We have a whole bunch of stuff if you subscribe there. Regular Hearthstone content Monday to Thursday and occasionally Monday to Friday nights every single week. So sub there and see all of our old stuff. New players, intermediate players, ladder, arena, some tactics, some basic concepts explained. Something there for everyone. We are at FelcroftCasts on Twitter. Do come and say hello. We'd love to have a chat with you when we're not streaming. We always do this live. This is a live, an archived version of a live recording if you're not seeing it on Twitch, so please get involved at twitch.tv/Felcraftcasts. And last but not least, the website is felcraft.org, where we have all of our videos, blog articles, other stuff on Hearthstone and other games. We play other Blizzard games and PC games too, but also things that live a bit better in a static format, such as deck lists, links and similar. And our last request, please, if you like this, let us know. If you don't like this or think we could do things better, just let us know as well, because we would love to hear from you. We just want to know how to make better content that you will enjoy. So, going to jump into the chat for the casted portion of this. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And